we'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Warburton.
No one in their right mind would walk away from a club like Rangers. It was a 97% pay cut to go from RBS to coaching at Watford Academy.
Have either of you ever known anyone that set up an undercover social media account to post things about themselves?
I'm on an A licence course with the likes of Ray Wilkins, Dean Saunders. I couldn't get my head around it.
Paquetá I love as well because he's a maverick. If you need someone to win you the game, you need to get the ball to that man.
It's my choice to leave at the end as well because, again, there's a little bit different approaches to the game, and I didn't want to lose a friendship with David, so it was the right thing, I think.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football, brought to you by William Hill. Thank you so much if you've subscribed to our YouTube lately. We've just clicked over 25,000, which I noticed. So that is 5,000 subscribers in the last couple of weeks, which just shows you if you're not subscribing, you should be. Sam is still on his winter break, and so we have our wonderful standing gaffer again. Tim Sherwood's back. Hello.
How are you doing that?
Good. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, pleasure.
It's always nice to see you. Yeah. I'm always happy when you come back. Would you like to introduce our guest for today?
Yeah, today we've got an intriguing man who's had a career in the city of London as a city trader and a successful football manager, hence why he's on this show. We'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Warburton.
Good morning, Nat. Good morning.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Have your paths crossed in a work capacity before?
I think probably Tim was at Tottenham, and we set up a tournament, a next gen tournament. We met there, Tim, didn't we? Really?
I think Mark had the initiative that, and he was absolutely right that the playing pathway and the games program for youth football, it was not at a level, and it's still not. I believe that, but he set up a company, and it was playing international games, and it was a real leveler. It was a real eye opener to see the standard where the boys had to be, especially now when you know these young academies are signing boys, you know, from Barcelona and Real Madrid and Sporting Lisbon or wherever it may be. And I remember we played a few games in the Next Gen series, which is Mark's baby, and they brought it through, and it was a very good program, and it was a more competitive level, and it was a real leveler for the boys to know what standard they had to be at, not just in England but across Europe, and that's where we first crossed.
And it was games with a consequence as well. The boys for the first time had to go somewhere and get a point, or had to win to make the next round of competition. So you were giving boys real competition, which was so valuable for them.
I remember one game we played Sporting Lisbon. I think Eric Dyer would have played for Sporting Lisbon at the time. And they had a conveyor belt of players they were bringing through, extraordinary. And we won 1-0. I've never had a team who have been battered so much as my team that day. And I remember coming back, so Harry Redknapp was the manager of Tottenham, and he said, "How'd you get on? The boys done well?" Then I said, "No, mate." I said, "We won 1-0, but I said it was embarrassing. The ref should have stopped it. Really, if it was a boxing match, it would have been stopped." I said, he said, "Yeah, but you won." I said, "Well, it's not about winning." I said, "Really, it's about developing individuals. If you would have given me a swap for their players, for our players, I would have took it." And that's the level.
The mad thing is that same Sporting Lisbon team opened up by playing Liverpool at Anfield. And I hope my friends at Liverpool, Frank and Kenny, won't mind, etc. But I think they won 3-1 at Anfield. And the Liverpool team had Raheem Sterling, Connor Cody, John Joe Shelby, Flanagan, Suso, Andre Wisdom, all guys that have gone on to have stellar careers. And I think the overall result was 8-1 to Sporting Lisbon. With that team of Liverpool playing. So as Tim said, the quality was so high.
Who else was in that Sporting Lisbon team? Can you remember then? Eric
Well,
Dyer?
that's the whole point. It's not necessarily about the teams progressing, but the level of I was looking at individuals, as I always did in that development phase of coaching, and I would have took them over our boys, you know. But together, teams don't develop together. It's individuals, and you got to push one or two up. And it's really, and I've said it on here many times, it's not about winning at any other level apart from first team. Boys will automatically want to win football matches because it's bred in them when they're kids, and the desire to want to achieve a victory. But It is all about pushing the kids nearer to the first team, and then eventually in the first team, and then that's a success. That's why I'm so passionate about that phase. And Mark's brainchild there was really, really good development for the younger boys, like the Kanes and the Bentalebs and Livermores and Corkers, Pritchards. They all were part of that, and
all played through it. The Sergio Sampas at Barcelona, but it was a Brentford owner, Matthew Benham, that funded the whole tournament. He had the foresight to see, for him to view the market as well, to recognise the young talent coming through. So, enormous respect to him for his vision.
Yeah,
you've had such a fascinating pathway into football. You have such a fascinating story. I'm really looking forward to getting into it. Before we find out a bit more about you, though, we have got to talk quickly about, right at the start, the amount of things that have been going on with managers in this last week or so. And I can't even say sackings, can I? Because we've had some very strange leavings, not leavings. So since the last time we recorded a week ago, obviously we've had the news about Roy Hodgson's stepping down from Palace. Then we had Thomas Tuchel, who is mutually going to leave Bayern Munich at the end of the season, which I just find so fascinating. Then we've had the Millwall manager leave. We've had Michael Beale get sacked at Sunderland. Am I missing anyone? I think is that them all? I
think you're right. Well, you jumped the gun on Joe Edwards possibly, but I maybe.
Oh, okay.
I think you're right. You got inside information, obviously. From Millwall.
Always in the know.
But look, it's part and parcel of the game. I mean, Mark, I tell you, you're a football manager. There's one thing for sure: you're going to get sacked. It's just how long you can drag it out for. Roy Hodgson, I think now's the time. Just call it a day, Roy. Life's more important than any football match and managing. He's incredible to have continued at the level where he's coached and managed. I've been fortunate to be coached by the man, and let me tell you, he's one of the best teachers of football there is out there. And a lovely man, and now he needs to enjoy the rest of his life. He's 77 years of age. The stresses, Mark, I tell you, stresses and demands on your mental capacity when you're a football manager. Look, I understand and I appreciate. There's a lot tougher jobs out there. And people have had it hard, especially in recent years. But it's still a stressful job, and someone of his age, he's just immune to it almost, but it takes its toll, and hopefully the most important thing is him to be healthy, and we all wish him well, and I'm sure he is.
What do you make of the Thomas Tuchel announcement? So he's going to stay with them, he's going to stay at Bayern until the end of the season, and then he's going to leave.
I find it quite bizarre. First to go back to Tim's comments about Roy, there's a statesman of the game, so enormous respect to Roy and what he's achieved. But then you jump forward, and the other comments you made about other players and managers are lasting 10, 11, 12 games, and they're going now. Thomas Tuchel, he's a man with international experience, recognised huge clubs that he's managed, but now a club like Bayern Munich, recognised as one of the biggest clubs in the world, he agrees to leave in 3 months' time. They've got major games still to play. They're still second in the league, I believe, they're still chasing down, and Leverkusen could have 2 or 3 bad games and suddenly they're back in it, and yet the managers agreed to leave. I find it quite bizarre. And I try and think, I compare it to other businesses. What other businesses would make decisions of this nature, be it Joe and Michael, be it Thomas Tuchel, in the manner that they do in football? I find it quite bizarre.
If you're staying, you're going to be there for 3 months. Your players know you're going to be there for 3 months, but then you're leaving. How does that affect you day to day, do you think?
I think, with that club, it's a giant of a football club, is used to winning. If you don't win, he would know he's going to get sacked. He's going to get sacked anyway. He's going to leave by mutual consent, whatever that means. I'll tell you what that means. It means he can't find anyone else at the moment to take over from him.
Just jump back to Crystal Palace for a minute. I'd love both your inside info opinions on it. I found it a little bit uncomfortable that Roy was obviously taken ill and then he stepped down from his post, and then they appointed somebody so quickly. They must have been speaking to people, do you think?
Yeah, I've covered a few games recently, and they haven't gone Palace's way, and the crowd have turned. You remember they unfolded the banner at Arsenal, and it was quite derogatory. And you look at it and you think, and I was saying on the commentary that Roy doesn't deserve that. He's a statesman of the game. What he's achieved in the game, he commands respect. He doesn't deserve it, certainly at this stage of his career and his life. But obviously the pressure was mounted on Roy. Palace are drifting down. They've had a few tough results. Players like Eze and Elise have been injured. and they've definitely been in a weaker position. So they're drifting down towards the danger zone. So the conversations were, I'm sure, being had. And Roy Lee's at the end of the season, similar to Tuchel, and they've got to have a successor lined up. So I'm sure conversations that were being had. But the fact that it's been accelerated by the illness, yeah, fine. But I just found it so quick. What took ill, and then you got the guy in the box for the game against Everton. It just seems somewhat, I use that word bizarre again, but football is bizarre at the moment.
Yeah. I just think that that's the nature of it. Having been in it, very rarely do you get a call after someone gets sacked. You pretty much have been lined up previous to that. We all know, we've been in it. We know how it works. It works for us. It works against us. So that's the nature of it. You don't crash a plane without going for the life jacket.
They've appointed, I've forgotten his name, an Austrian manager.
Where?
Crystal Palace.
Krasner.
Yeah.
Was there any English managers you think that could have done it, that could have been considered? Any managers?
Possibly. They were talking about Steve Cooper, weren't they, for a long period of time. Now, whether he's got an issue with his severance at Nottingham Forest, maybe. That is. I mean, it's the last thing you want as a manager. I mean, it's a tough job. You don't want to go in there and do the job for nothing. So if you're in gardening leave and Nottingham Forest, possibly, I'm surmising here. I mean, they maybe didn't want to do him a deal on his payoff, and if so, basically, if he goes and gets another job and he works at Crystal Palace, he's working for nothing, which I wouldn't advise to anyone, really, not even you.
Oh, I would do this for the love of it, Tim. Clearly, I would. Okay, so then we have Sunderland. Michael Beale's left. Was it 12 games? He left after 12 games? Like, how do you feel about? Are we just going to keep saying bizarre? Is what it seems.
I think you look at the situation. One is the longevity or lack of it for these managers now. We're talking about 10, 12 games, 2 or 3 months, and managers changing. So that's the bizarre nature of it. But you look at this particular situation. Tony Mowbray, I think, was well respected by the fans. It's a tough fan base, from what I understand. It's a big club, big expectation. Tony's gone in there. He's playing good football with a young squad, and the fans have taken to Tony. And suddenly, I found it quite bizarre that he was shocked. He was sacked. And as such, how did the fan base react to any manager going in there? I think it was a tough gig for whoever it may have been. And the fact that Mickey's gone in there and has lost the first couple of games, whatever it may be, losing to Newcastle, you say dream game, it could be a nightmare game for you as well, as it proved to be. And I think he's had a really rough ride there. But that fan base, I don't think, has ever taken to Michael from the sound of it. And as such, you're always on the back foot. So 10, 12 games, yes, so short, ludicrously short, but you can almost see it coming, unfortunately.
Do you make of 12 games?
Yeah, 12 games is short. But we all know it's like, I think Mark's spot on. It's the expectations of the football club. And perhaps the owners there now, their expectation levels are a little bit too high. We talked about the Championship before, and we said that the teams will come down and normally the teams will go up. I think it's bang average league, I really do. I think apart from there's 3 or 4 teams in it. And the rest, it's really difficult to bridge that gap. The parachute money is the advantage. They can invest. And Sunderland have been out of it for a while now. The Premier League, they haven't got that money to spend. They have to go a different route. I thought Tony Mowbray was doing a great job with a young group of players. Mickey Beale's getting that opportunity to go in there, and it hasn't worked out for him. And it's a shame for him, but it's just, we keep talking about it. As a football manager, you know what you're going into. There's no easy ride. You don't win games. There's no long term about the short term being right, and unfortunately, he never got the short term right. So unfortunately, you don't get a look at the long term.
I think the problem for me is what represents a good season for these clubs. Sunderland come up, Ipswich come up. Ipswich done a great job. Kieran's done a magnificent job at Ipswich. Now, they could lose a few games and just slip out of that, slip away. They've still had a great season, but it'll be deemed as a failure because they should have achieved A, B and C. But this is it. The expectation is a key word and fan base. It's not realistic anymore. And this is the biggest problem for managers and coaches going in, is dealing with that expectation.
We could say that about Eddie as well. Eddie Howe, he's given far too much too early in the first year. To be in the Champions League is an incredible achievement. And this year it's tailed off a little bit. They've had crippling injuries, but as every team has. And hopefully he's not judged on what he's given too much too early. And they expect to just progress every single year. But unfortunately, what he gave them last year was beyond expectation. And hopefully they realise that and not dip into the trophy manager market.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I heard about Michael Beale, my initial immediate thought was, Sam told me he was on a winter break. He's on a winter break. I'm pretty sure he's on a winter break because obviously he's got a lot of history with Sunderland, hasn't he? So hopefully Sam will be back here in the studio very, very soon. Maybe his phone is ringing as we speak, Tim.
Maybe Millwall, yeah?
Yes.
Too south for the Sam, that one.
Yeah, he did say a couple of episodes ago that he would manage in the Championship. So...
I bet he would.
We'll keep a watching.
Watch his space.
Yes.
Look, as much as we criticise the club, Sunderland, and about their decision making, we're no shortage of people who want to take that job.
It's a huge club.
They want to take it, even though that might happen to them in 12 games. They'll still want to take the job.
Would you take it?
Move on. No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Because only 13 games.
Would you take it, Mark?
Anyone who says Sunderland, if you can't see the potential at Sunderland as a manager or a coach,
it's huge.
It's a massive club, great fan base. And if you get anyone who can get that job right, will be in for a fantastic ride. As you say, Eddie at Newcastle, get Newcastle right. They're two huge northern clubs.
Definitely. Well dodged. So let's talk about you, because you have such an interesting path into football. Could you tell us, what was for anyone that doesn't know, and I think everybody knows this about you, but in case anyone that doesn't know, what was your career before football?
I was a trader in the city. I was a young pro, for a very bang average player, playing at Leicester City, and left there and played conference football and got a job in the city. And the advert, my mum got me the job, and it read competitive individual good with numbers. That was it, in the Daily Telegraph, and I got the job. And I walked in, I had no idea what it was. And it was going into a dealing room. And for those who haven't been in a dealing room, anyone with a competitive background would love it, certainly the old market. So I said, chatting to Tim before the show, you go in there, and I entered this world, which was, for me, mind-boggling. I was at one of the smaller banks at the time, didn't realise it. It was probably like a League One comparison in terms of the size of bank. But you enter this world where millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars are being traded every day, and risk, reward, and teamwork, and competitiveness, and it was magnificent. So for me, it's like a dressing room. That's all it was. So hence the transition later on into football. It was an easy move to make.
How many years did you do it for?
22, 23.
What?
Yeah, I was lucky. I worked in Charlotte, Chicago. I traded Japanese yen against the dollar. So I was in Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore. Really fortunate, really privileged to be in great countries, great jobs. But always it's like football. If Tim has a good season, you get another contract. If you don't, you moved on. If you made your budget, you had a nice bonus. If you didn't, thank you for working here, and I wish you all the very best. And it was that sort of black and white approach, which I like that approach. You know where you stand. I don't like the grey areas. So for me, it was a wonderful, wonderful job. Loved every minute of it. I mean, it was such that you enjoy going to work every day. I'd get in really early in the morning, stupidly early because I was doing the yen. But you trade till 7, 8 o'clock at night, get home at 9 at night, take phone calls through the night from New York and then Tokyo and Hong Kong, and that was it. It was it sounds ludicrous, but you're well paid if you do well, and it was just a buzz every day. So I couldn't speak high enough about the job itself.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you used to get up at 4:42. Is that true, and why?
You know when things are burned on your brain? It's burned on my brain. The alarm would go off, and a number of times I woke up going, "Please be 1 o'clock in the morning. Please 1 o'clock." And you looked over, it was like 4:39. It was like, "Oh no, I've got 2 minutes left in bed." 4:42, 5:02 I left, drove to Cuffley car park, got the 5:12 train at my desk at 10 to 6, speaking to Tokyo by 6 o'clock. And that would be it. And you're talking to Tokyo banks, and the dealing room was busy by 6:30 in the morning, packed by 7. And these are big dealing rooms, and it's just a different world up there. And people say when I hear people being negative, I'm not into politics. When I hear people being negative about bankers, they earn their money. Let me tell you, the vast 99%, it's a long day, long working week, big pressure, and you earn your money.
Would you go back into it?
It's changed, Tim.
Yeah.
That after 2008, it changed. But you've got to imagine, we had very male-dominated at the start, much, much more even now, thankfully. But if you imagine what you're used to in terms of a dressing room and a squad, 12, 15 guys around a desk, and the sales guys around the outside, and that 10 or 12 people might turn over 20 billion, 25 billion in a day, every day. So you've got guys of 25, 28, 30, 35 years of age dealing with $2.5, $3 billion a day, every day. So the risk is huge. And people have got no idea. It's all based on trade. And etc. So there's a reason why it's not just a casino, but it's just a massive market. And dealing with that, I've got so much respect for some of the best boss I ever worked for was in the city, not in football. It's in the city. And you learn so much from them. And the city, in my mind, has always been 5-10 years ahead of football. We had psychologists years ago going through it. When they go, football in the early 2000s, got psychologists coming in. We had them in the 80s. If you had how'd you deal with a really bad day? How'd you deal with losing your whole year in November because of an incident, a 9/11 situation? And you could lose your entire year. Obviously, people far more serious lost their lives. But, in terms of work, you could lose your year. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that level of disappointment? And you had psychologists dealing and diversity. And all these areas were covered by the banks way before football. So we can learn so much from the city.
And you still get sacked after 3 months if you don't do well?
You know what? I use it a lot, this comparison. I apologise if it's been repeated. But I remember going into a big American bank, AIG. And at the time, they were sponsoring Man United. Remember the AIG put the front of the shirts? AIG were the biggest American company at the time. And I was told by the partner, take your time, settle in for the first year. Go and see other branches, go to Hong Kong, to New York, see how we trade, how we treat our customers. And after a year, we'll look at your trading and making the money, etc. And now you've gone in football in 3 months, 10 games, you're gone.
Yeah.
Here's a big American, one of the biggest companies in the world at the time, giving you a year to settle in. This is why they're successful. They give people time to adjust and settle in. Joe Edwards and Mickey's had no time at all at the relevant clubs. And we go, that's football. But is it right? It's not right. But it's the emotions of the game, the passion of the game, which I think causes very astute businessmen to completely change their entire approach to work.
The pressure from the outside, from the fans. Yeah.
So when you're dealing, obviously you're dealing with shareholders and banks and whatever else, but there's no other emotions. When you lose a game as a manager on a Saturday, you're dealing with the fan base, you're dealing with the global fan base if you're at a bigger club. So like the Rangers, for example, if you lose a game there, you feel the tremors around. So it's just dealing with the emotional side of the game, which I think changes people's decision-making process.
Social media now as well.
Everything, the platforms, Tim.
Yeah.
And owners, board members, listen to social media. They read social media.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's Sunderland they don't, if the Michael Beale rumours are true. We'll move on because it's alleged. In terms of how you leave banking and move into football management and coaching, how did that happen?
If you spoke with a British accent, so I was in 1985, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I spoke with a British accent. I ended up coaching an under-9 girls team, a Banks team, a high school team, college team, because if you speak the British accent, you must know football. That's how it was perceived, bizarrely. So wherever I worked in the world, I always coached. I had no idea about qualifications, none. As bizarre as that may seem, I keep using that word, as weird, I had no idea about level 1, 2, 3. Came back and my son was a decent young player, wanted to be a pro, and he was taken as an academy player. So I said, I used to play, and he went to Watford, and they said, well, we've got no money, we've got no coaches, could you come and do a little bit? He said, what level are you? I'm no level. So very quickly I did me 1, 2 and 3, and I found myself, I was senior dealer at RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, and I'm on an A licence course with the likes of Ray Wilkins, Dean Saunders, Adrian Heath, Chris Coleman, these type of players. I couldn't get my head around it. These are guys I'm watching on TV at the weekend, and I'm in the bank dealing. And but that's the first time I really tasted it and wanted it really badly. And then they offered me a job, and I had to leave. And it's well documented, but it was a 97% pay cut to go from RBS to coaching at Watford Academy. And it was like, my wife looked at me and went, are you absolutely nuts? That was the word she used. And I remember my daughter was at school, private school, and she said to me, you do know that your gross salary is less than her school fees, your gross salary. I said, yeah, I'm well aware. Thank you for the reminder. But that was the call. But you get that point in your life that if you don't do it, you're never going to do it. So it may be complete madness and that, but at the time, I wanted to do that. And I knew also, though, that I didn't have enough knowledge. I haven't got Tim's background of playing and the level Tim's played at. So I went around Europe for a year and just studied the clubs. And in the same way in the banks used to cold call customers, I cold called all the clubs around Europe. And I got, again, number burned in my brain. 43 clubs went, no, wouldn't even pick my call up. And then it was Diogo Matos at Sporting Lisbon who said to me, if you play golf and can jump on a plane, I'll give you 5 hours of my time tomorrow morning. And he opened up all the doors, which later became Next Gen. So it's a small world football. Did that year of going round, felt far more educated, knowledgeable, and then took the job at Watford. But always thinking I was going to be in youth because, again, I haven't got the playing career of a Tim. And it was only when Matthew Benham called from Brentford that I got the in to go and coach there.
Could you play golf?
I could play golf.
Or did you just
I
blag that you
beat him
could?
as well, which really hacked him off, which he didn't like that at all. So we had a few quid on that, and I thought I might have blown my chances. But no, that was he's now working for FIFA, senior at FIFA. But again, football's a real village. I know you keep hearing that term, but it is. Football's a village, and if you treat people the right way and that they look after you, it comes round. Don't ever burn your bridges in football.
Could you mix, Mark, the city with football? So really, like a sporting director, because you would understand with the numbers what you've been brought up with, financial fair play would be easy for you to understand. Or did you want to be on the grass?
Both, Tim, really. I really enjoyed when I was at Brentford. So 6 months, they got rid of the manager. I coached the team for the second half of the season and really enjoyed that. Wanted the job. And Matthew asked me to be technical director, and they hired Uwe Rosler.
Yay!
So Uwe came in, lovely. We had a great
Love
relationship.
Uwe Rosler.
I was hacked off because I wanted the job. But then Matthew gave me the authority to be in charge of everything. First team, academy, medical, analytical, sports science, everything, and deal with the contracts with the agents. So for me, I had 2 years of magnificent education. You
got that purely because you understood his mindset from being the business and being the city.
I just got the
That
role.
gave you an advantage, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, Tim. It's more, the city was all about creating an environment that was conducive to success. Learning, development, yeah, but you had to go and win, you make money. So it was about setting up the environment to make sure it was good for you to come in and be the best you could be. Football's no different. So for me, I've always been about make the environment that every player, staff member enjoys coming to work and leave a better, I'm saying a bit, I don't want to sound too holier than thou, but leave a better person in terms of you had a good training session, you've worked hard, you've learned something. And that's always been the same, but that was my lesson from the city, Tim. So going into Brentford, one of my proudest things is 5 or 6 of the staff, head of medical, sports science, so that they're all still there. They're all still there. We hired them back in 2011. So all credit to Matthew as an owner, but they were good people we hired and made the right environment. So that's a source of great pride. But I just found that side of it really easy. I found, not in an arrogant way, I just found that side, Tim, very, very comfortable.
So many nuggets in there for people in terms of like following your dreams and never giving up and just, Yeah,
it sounds a bit corny though. I don't want it to come across as corny because I remember Sean Dyche was a youth team coach of mine at Watford. We worked together and we had a flat tyre on the side of the road and the rain was lashing down. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here? And I'm sure Sean was thinking exactly the same. So it's not all this, roses and an easy path. It was tough. And as I say, I was lucky that I had a good job before and I had some money put aside and that funded you. Because I couldn't ask my family to take a massive cut in their lifestyle. It was my choice. So I had to have money put aside to do it. But it's a rocky road. I'm very privileged, very lucky to have the way it worked out. But it's I don't want to paint this picture that it's an easy transition. It's not now.
So you went from the sporting director role at Brentford, and then you got your chance in management. Did you prefer the management side or the back side?
I love management. I mean, Uwe went to Wigan. At the time, Wigan were pushing hard and Brentford was a smaller club. And Matthew phoned me up. I was going to an Arsenal game. I was ironing a shirt. I remember it clearly. And Matthew goes, would you like the job? Yes, please. Great. See you Monday. Click. And that was it. Great. I went to the Arsenal game on a Sunday. I was 10 feet tall. And then got Davey Weir. Davey phoned up Davey, who I met through Next Gen and was at Everton, Tim, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And asked Davey if he'd like to come and be number 2, which is a fantastic guy. So pleased to see him doing well now at Brighton. But Davey came in, Frank McParland from Liverpool, great recruitment, fantastic recruitment. And the way we went, and we had a really good, got promoted with Wolves that season. And then we got to the playoffs for the Premier League in the following year. So we had a really good, Brentford was great for me.
Did you ever get a call from someone going, hi, Tim, do you want the job?
Yeah, once, Tottenham. Yeah. And that's how it works. You don't plan for it, and you either if you thought about it for a long time, you'd probably say no. But you don't have to think about it when you get offered opportunities like that. You just jump straight in and say yes, please.
Absolutely.
So Brentford, Rangers, Nottingham Forest, and QPR. You with your management, and then you went to West Ham as a first team coach.
Yeah, that was more. David Moyes and I have gone to the same holiday place in Florida for years, purely by chance. He has his children, my children. So we ended up playing golf and whatever else. And
do you beat him as well?
And It's been close. It's been close. Be careful what I say here. But we had this, and I had a couple of offers from championship clubs, and one of them was going through a takeover. So I met with them all, and the deal was there, and they were pushing. It's nice to be wanted in football. But then David said, would you come and be my number 2 at West Ham on the golf course? And I think, well, I've never experienced Premier League. I've been Premier League in Scotland, but always Championship. And I wanted to see what the level was like. I want to understand the financials better. I want to look at the staffing structures. So I just thought, yeah. And the same thing as I said, if you don't do it, you look back and go, I could have tasted it. I really enjoyed the European side. Obviously, we won a trophy at the end of the year, so it was a great end to the season. Found it really frustrating in a number of ways, having been a number 1. And that's not in an arrogant way. That's just you're used to making decisions, and suddenly it's not your decision. And that's a really tough one. It really is. So that was that. But it was a great experience now. But that was my choice. And it was my choice to leave at the end as well, because, again, there's a little bit different approaches to the game. And I didn't want to lose a friendship with David. So it was the right thing, I think.
What if you took over a Premier League club now, which player out of that West Ham squad would you take?
Dec's obviously gone.
You only get one.
Declan, you have to say Declan Rice.
Declan?
You have to say Declan, Tim, because look at the impact Dec's had at Arsenal. Look at his character, look at his consistency, his physicality, and his what player he is. So he's a tremendous international. But I'm not.
I know your second one.
Yeah. Paquetá. What a player. Magnificent talent. So again, no disrespect to any of the players I've been privileged to work with. There were some lovely players, really good players. But when you look at that level, when you've got the likes of AFA Guard and you've got Paquetá and Declan Rice and Jared Bowen and, these type of players, there's some top talents there. And West Ham got a great squad. And all credit to David and the staff for assembling that squad. He's
just a dream, Declan, isn't he? He's just a manager's dream. He's your first on your team sheet because you're going to get a 7 at least. And if he makes mistakes, they're going to be honest mistakes. Paquetá, I love as well because he's a maverick. If you need someone to win you the game, you need to get the ball to that man.
And he sees things which you just don't see.
Yeah.
You look at the past, the winning goal in the final, European final. Everyone said, Jared, what a great finish. Look at the pass from Paquetá. He sees it early. He's got a mercurial left foot and nothing phases him, Tim. But Dec, for me, it's more about the character as well. Off the field. I've watched him deal with situations at 24 years of age, which are quite remarkable. How he's dealt with the constant attention. We had a training camp in Portugal and you watch a guy swamped everywhere from families, and yet the way he deals with it, and I'm sure Tim's had loads of it, the way you deal with it, it can affect you, or you could be surly. You watch players, you dismiss from young kids. Never Dec. He's been outstanding. So he deserves so much credit, and there's so much more still to come. He's going to turn 25 this year. Quite incredible.
We always ask our listeners, our viewers, for questions. If you'd ever like to send one in, you can do that either on Twitter or reply to the YouTube is probably the best way. So Joe Wilkes has asked a question this week for you. So he says, Mark's been on record about having different philosophies than David Moyes. Is that why you left West Ham?
Basically, yeah. Nothing that David won't mind me saying that. I think when he hired me, David spoke about my team's playing with a very much attacking approach. And David's built his fantastic career on the basis of a really solid defence and hard to break down, hard to beat, and then scoring set pieces, etc., and scoring good goals. So that's David's approach. I think he wanted more of a combination. I think we had quite a tough start to the season. We lost all the centre halves, and then players hit a barren run. Jared wasn't scoring, Mickey wasn't scoring, Thomas Tuchel wasn't scoring, who have done this year. So we had a tough start, and I think Tim would agree. When managers have a tough start, you revert back to what you know. So we went back to the basics of defending and hard to beat, 1v1s, 2v2s. And I just felt, I wasn't offering value. And if I'm 40, 45 years of age, I'm happy just to be in that environment. But I need to feel that I'm contributing, not in an arrogant way, but I think you've got to add value to wherever you are. So I wasn't satisfied in that respect. And we had different approaches, and hence at the end of the season, it was a quick phone call the day after the final to say, probably best we split here.
You've got a brilliant, as a manager, a brilliant win rate. Do you know your win rate?
No.
47.6% win rate in 347 games that you've managed. Would you like to get back into management one day?
Yeah, very much so. And again, you look back at your mistakes you make. Mine was probably leaving West Ham and not documenting that I'm looking, because I think people thought, he must have left West Ham, he's going to another job. They've won a European trophy. Surely he wouldn't just leave there, but I did. because for the reasons I mentioned before. So, and now the market is changing, and you got to find a solution that, because you can't sit here and bemoan the fact that younger guys are getting a job. That's pointless. You got to find a way to get it. And is it frustrating? Yeah. Do you get angry? You do, because you think, well, your CV is strong, your win rate, thank you for that, is quite strong, and you go, why am I not getting jobs? But because the perception is we go younger. I do honestly think, probably debate another day, but tech directors coming in changes things. What they look for, they come in age 45, 48. Are they going to go and hire a 55, 60-year-old manager? I'm not sure they are. I think they're more comfortable with younger managers, hence younger coaches. So that's another.
Why? Because they talk back to them.
I do. I think that's human nature. I think if Tim hires a young 28, 30-year-old coach coming through doing his pro license, you could deal with that very, very easily. If you hired Neil Warnock or Sam or Roy, that's a different ball game.
Yeah.
Because they're on it. They're on it, and they're very, very experienced. Vastly more experienced than yourself, with full respect.
Yeah.
They are. They've been and seen it in the game, England managers and whatever else.
Yeah.
So I think that for a technical director, especially foreign, an English club, I think that's a different ball game completely. So I think that's resulting in more overseas managers coming in, and the game, the landscape is changing.
And that's not just at the top level, is it?
No, it's not. And that's the whole point.
It's on every level now.
Every level is kind of filtering all the way down. And good luck to these guys coming in. I wish them no ill. They're young coaches looking for a step forward in the game. But I think for young British coaches, it's really hard, and it's resulting in, you asked the question, am I looking to work? Yeah, of course I am. I think I've got a lot to offer. I think I'm not arrogant. I think I'm good at what I do. So we all are.
Do you think that the English coaches, the British coaches, don't get the respect they deserve? I use Gary O'Neill as a good example.
Yes.
Is there anyone else could have gone into Wolves in that period and done a better job than what he's done?
He's gone in. He's galvanised the team. He's got the team on side. The unity is evident. I went and saw the game recently at Chelsea and did that game, and magnificent unity. He's got the work ethic to the last minute. He's producing results. He's got the fan base on side. He's done everything you need of him and more. Done a fantastic job. Would you have said at the start of the season, Gary O'Neill to Wolves? No, you just wouldn't.
No.
Why not? Why not? And I'm not being critical about overseas. I'm not, far from it. But I think we've got more overseas owners. We've got more overseas technical directors, sporting directors, heads of football. And I think their choice, look at it from a personal point of view. If you went to the States tomorrow and you're working MLS, and I said, Tim, go and hire a coach, where would you look for your coach? You look over here because it's a market that you know.
Yeah.
You come to what you know.
Yeah.
If you have a German technical director or you have a Spanish technical director, they go with what they know.
Yeah.
So I don't blame them in any way, but I just think it's having a very striking impact on the British game right now.
What do you make of De Zerbi? I mean, I love him. I just think he plays for such an attractive style. He's got like fire in his belly. He must be an absolute nightmare for the directors to manage. But I would have him all day.
I'd imagine that's like herding cats dealing with Roberto and his staff. But as you say, I love the football. I love the freedom. I love the ideas. When you watch them play, you think, they're going to play a 4-2-2-2. Oh, what they're playing now. And they're all over the place. You're watching inverted fullbacks. You're watching wide players roll in. And that knowledge, that movement, and the way he obviously conveys the message to the players deserves enormous respect.
Yeah.
But as you say, I'm sure that emotional fire is on and off the pitch as well.
It may be his strength and his weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it goes well, it's great.
Great, yeah.
But there's going to be times, they lost 4-0 to Luton.
Yeah.
But that's where you have the fantastic structure behind them at Brighton, where no problem, just move on.
Yeah.
And you need that level of support as well.
Oh, yeah, I love that. They win 4-0 one week. They lose 4-0 one week. They win 5-0 the next week. I love watching them.
Yeah.
You could never pick his team.
No, you can't.
There's zero chance of putting any of his team in your fantasy league.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got Pascal Gross at the minute, by the way. He's getting me a lot of points. So
yeah, well, he's probably one steady Eddie what he has in there.
Mitoma. Look at Mitoma. But then they lose him through injury. He's out for a good few weeks. And yet effortlessly they deal with it.
Yeah.
And another one comes through and you look at the transfer policy. When you look at McAllister and Casado and Cucurella and now Ferguson being you reel off. They're not going for 10 or 20. These are guys are going for 70, 80, 90 plus. So tremendous recruitment. And again, the club is in magnificent
I mean, you
shape.
talked about Matthew Benham. I mean, he's obviously learned from the man there, hasn't he? I mean, it's unbelievable what he's done there, the chairman. I mean,
Which one, Matthew or Tony?
No, Tony.
Well,
Tony Bloom, but
they work together.
Worked together, but and they've got the same brain somewhere along the line there, and they've got a really good footballing model.
It used to really frustrate me when people spoke about little old Brentford or little Brighton. these two clubs have got a recruitment model which is outstanding. The envy of many, many bigger clubs, and people should never.
Well, Chelsea are buying Brighton's, aren't they?
Yeah, but this is the 8th one going over there.
Yeah.
I think if Sam Jewell goes, it's the 8th person from the club to go. But you get an proven model. But the good thing is, it won't faze Brighton and it won't faze Brentford. If they lose staff, they have the succession plan in place, and they just keep players or staff.
They know what they are.
They know what they are.
And the fans do as well, which helps.
Well, you mentioned that, and there is that. There's it's going on right now. So the head of recruitment, Sam Jewell, has been linked that he's leaving Brighton to go to Chelsea, which is the 8th member of staff to make this move under Chelsea's ownership. Obviously, you mentioned there the recruitment they've had. He's obviously phenomenally good at his job, which is why Chelsea are trying to get him.
He is, yeah. And also, I said to Tim, we were chatting on the way up on the train, don't forget that the owners are heavily involved. You've got two magnificent owners there, Matthew and Tony Bloom. I don't know Tony Bloom, so I know Matthew so well. Enormous respect for what they do. His knowledge of the game, and their process to sign a player net is so important. How they involve the technical directors, the manager, the staff, etc. How they interrogate every player, every prospect. The character off the pitch, playing record minutes, everything. That no stone is left unturned before they commit, because you live and die by your recruitment. But as I say, please don't think that these two clubs are small. They are two fantastic in terms of world scale.
Yeah,
there's not many clubs better in terms of recruitment,
and they don't just get lucky. The infrastructure behind the scenes there, what you don't know about, costs them an absolute fortune. But it's the money in the right places, because they're finding the right talent.
Absolutely.
And then the money for them talent, when you put them on a stage and they perform like they perform. Certainly Brighton's players. Just go for. We couldn't even add it up what they've sold players for, and they continue to perform at a consistent level. Amazing.
How do you both feel about the fact that we are now talking about? So we used to just talk about transfers. We used to talk about just players that go between clubs. Now we're so deep into football. Maybe it's social media that we talk about staff going. Yeah. So we mentioned there Sam Jewell being linked, head of recruitment from Brighton, being linked with Chelsea. You mentioned Dan Ashworth a minute ago. Jason Wilcox is being linked to. How do you feel about the fact that we're all so deep into it that we're interested in the backroom staff?
The game's moved on so much. It's no longer Sam Allardyce running the whole club and Arsene Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson running the whole club. It doesn't happen anymore. And we talked about it. It doesn't happen at any level, whether we like it or not. You have to have a team of people. You have to have experts in, and you need heads of all divisions. And I think that's why they're headhunting the best all around. And you mentioned one of my pals there, Jason Wilcox, who's done a magnificent job running that academy there at Man City, and almost like a job you don't want. And I say that for this reason, because Man City can go and buy all the best talent from all over the world, and you think, well, how on earth are we going to get anyone through the academy here? But they're fortunate they employed a manager who's used to developing young players at Barcelona, and he realises that they're not brilliant as soon as they go in. There's not a Lionel Messi tree where they just fall off in the back of your academy and you can stick them in your first team and they're brilliant. You have to nurture them. You have to put them in at the right time and bring them out at the right time, and give them the love. And he's done that with Phil Foden, and we've seen Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer unfortunately had to leave because of the financial fair play. They've used that, utilised that to their benefit, and he's gone to Chelsea. Wanted to play, he's left for the right reasons, and he's done brilliant. He's probably one of their better signings. But for me, Phil Foden, he's one little genius, and we should build our England team around him in the summer.
And he did come through under Jason Wilcox. So rumoured to be going to United as a technical director. Would that be a good move for United? Would it be a good move for him? See, we're talking about would it be a good move for a technical director?
Would it be? I mean, he's only just gone to Southampton. So it depends on, he's only at an early stage. It looks like, dropped a few points recently, but it looks like they might go back to the Premier League, which would be a success for him. I know Dragon, the owner there, he'd be obviously disappointed to lose Jason. Jason's a Manchester boy. So it's coming back home. As much as his professional life matters to him, so does his personal life. So I haven't spoke to him, but it's really difficult to turn down Man United. In any capacity, as a player, as a manager, as a sporting director, or whatever role they've got for him, it's a huge job. And he's no fool, and he'll make the correct decision what he thinks best for him and his family. So can't shed any light on it for you.
So from backroom staff back to management, I'd like to talk about David Moyes. And I don't want to put you in any awkward position because I know he's your friend and he's your former colleague, former boss.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make about the criticism that he's been facing? I mean, from West Ham fans, it's fair to say as well.
Every time I do anything, any commentary, any game, this is the first question I'm asked.
Oh, at least we went about 40 minutes then, Mark.
I mean in terms. So I wasn't being rude there. In terms of their bemused as to why being sick at the time, West Ham was sixth in the league or seventh in the league, and I think it comes back to, I said earlier, David's style has always been so outstandingly solid, compact, hard to break down, resilient. Good British players. And there's no doubt, I mean, magnificent CV, magnificent achievements in the game. But I think when the recruitment comes in and you start to sign players like Paquetá, like Kera, like Agard, like Kudus, the fan base expectation changes. It's almost like they expect us to play a different way of football now. You've been solid 4-4-2, for example, hard to break down, good set pieces, scoring goals. Now we're going to go and beat Barcelona. Now we're going to go and beat Real Madrid. Well, why? Well, look who you signed. And I think this is the problem. I think, going back, this is the bigger debate about tech directors and the target of player they're recruiting. Is Paquetá a typical West Ham player? I don't think Lucas is, Tim. I don't think he's what David would necessarily sign.
No, he's a West Ham player, though.
He is in terms of the...
That's the problem with a maverick of old, what they cry out for. Yeah. But he's not a David Moyes player.
The Canio type coming in and playing.
Yeah. So, absolutely. That's what the fans have been brought up with. That's what they're used to. But they're also used to getting relegated. And they ain't getting that anymore.
No. And they're in Europe, Tim, and they're consistently in Europe. The third year. They've won a title now. They're still in Europa League. They're in the top 10. I'm saying the top 10 because for the last, I think, 11, 12 years, that's been the average position is 10th.
Yeah.
And then we did it. That was the average. So be careful what you wish for, West Ham fans, because it may not be the style of play. And I've got loads of mates who are West Ham fans from the city. And they come out and they're moaning and we only won 1-0. We were shocking. It's 3 points. You're sixth in the table and you're in Europe. So you've got to be really, really careful what you desire.
But they're buying players like that, Mark. Why are they buying players like that if they're not David Moyes players? That means the alignment of the head of recruitment and the manager are not together.
David's in charge of the club, and so the likes of Everton, the job he's done there. And look, when you manage the clubs David's managed, and you look at his experience and his CV, enormous respect. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, Tim, the game is changing now. The manager doesn't run the whole show now.
Yeah.
And technical directors come in and run the show. And I'm sure, I don't know anything, I'm not giving anything away here. I'm sure that's a difficult transition for any experienced manager. Suddenly you're dealing with a technical director, sporting director, who has a lot of say, who can control the other departments, has a huge influence with the owner and the board in terms of recruitment. And you sit there and be paranoid and think, well, what's he saying to the owner? Why are we looking at this guy? I don't want that guy.
Yeah.
But suddenly, there's a case why you should sign this player, and suddenly there's layers of uncertainty you got to deal with, and it just adds to the pressure of a manager. So I think that's why, going back to the other question, you sign the young coaches, overseas coaches, far more comfortable and used to dealing with that type of situation.
Do you think, Mark, that Moyes getting fed up with the environment, constantly having to come out publicly and protect himself and justify the job he's done? To the professional, he hasn't got to do that, but he certainly has to. He feels like he has to do it to the media and to the fans. He's sending the message out to them. We don't think he needs to do it because we know the job he's done. But them guys are paying their money and they were demanding something else. It's a very difficult. It's like a real collision course at the end of this season. I think he stays till the end of the season, but I don't see it beyond there. Do you think he's had enough of it, the environment?
I think he's angry. I think he deserves to be angry because of the track record that he's got and what he's given the club and European football. So I don't think he has to do it, Tim, you're right, in terms of media, which is being questioned every week. But he should be angry, quite rightly so. And if David leaves West Ham, I hope very much it's his decision to leave West Ham and walk away and then do whatever he wants to do, whether he wants to go and manage again or go and work for UEFA or FIFA or whatever. He deserves that because of his CV.
Do you think he's got the energy to want to do it again?
Yeah, you spoke about Roy at 77.
Yeah.
I think David is
76.
He was after last week, maybe. But no, I think David's 61. He's got so much energy. He loves working.
Yeah.
He's got a great family. He's got a lovely house in Florida, etc. He could go and enjoy that. I don't think it's in his DNA. Once you start working and you love it and you breathe off it, where do you get your fix from? That's the only thing. He's had so many highs, so many fixes, European finals, big games, Man United, everything else. I think you've got to get your fix. And I think if he does leave West Ham, Tim, he's got to make sure he gets that fix
Yeah.
in the next job.
And if he does leave West Ham, is that a job for someone we've already mentioned? I thought that's a great job for Gary O'Neill. I really do.
West Ham's a fantastic job.
How big is that football club?
I come in. I kept it very quiet. I was born in Tottenham, by the way. I kept it very, very quiet. I'm a Tottenham fan through and through. So for me, I kept that under the radar. But it's a big club. It really is a big club. Massive fan base. Great away support. Yes, there's expectation, but there's at every club. But I really think the club has got so much more to go in. The training ground could be better, etc. But I do think it's got enormous potential even from here. So what a magnificent job for any coach. Anyone who looks at that one in any derisory manner should be.
Even like a Thomas Tuchel, possibly, at the end of the season.
Listen,
I mean, David's still got it. So
David's still got it. I'm not being anything better as David, far from it. If it's his decision, Tim, to walk away, I think any coach in the world should look at that job with eager anticipation, saying, what an opportunity to go and manage a club with the squad, by the way, that David and the staff have assembled, which can rival many. That front line of Kudus, Paquetá and Bowen, there's not many better in the Premier League. There's not anywhere. So they've got a squad there and talent in the ranks, and with a couple more and good recruitment, they'd be in a great place.
Ooh, juicy.
They are big. I mean, people don't realise how big that club is until I spoke to people who have been in it, and they tell you, Sam would tell you himself. I mean,
you go there with Europe. They could have filled any number of stadiums, and you come back to the parade, and there's 100,000 people on at West Ham there, and there's thousands. It's a huge fan base, and it's a great club.
I've got a few other kind of random football things that have been going on that I want to ask you both about. So, Eden Hazard has said that he doesn't like watching Erling Haaland play. He said that he does De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Bellingham or Grealish, but he doesn't like watching Erling Haaland. So what do you first of all make of those comments? Do you like watching Erling Haaland?
Listen, I know exactly where he's coming from, Eden Hazard. He's coming from the basis that he likes people who can take the ball and entertain and dribble, similar to what he used to do. What a player he was, by the way. Have no idea why it didn't happen at Real Madrid for him. But Erling Haaland he's the person on the end of the Eden Hazard. The reason people talk about him is because Didier Drogba used to tap the ball into the net after he gave it to him. Now, tapping ball into the net is not easy. You need to be in the right place at the right time. And Erling Haaland is the icing on the cake for the players like him, the fringe players, the De Bruynes, the Fodens, the Grealishes, who without someone putting that ball in the back of their net, it makes them look better. And I think I understand where he's coming from. He's not someone who's going to get you on the edge of your seat if you're not a connoisseur of football. But he's certainly, as a manager, he's certainly a player you need to win you the trophies. Hence why they won the treble last year.
If he carries on the way he's going in terms of goal scoring, because of course people may be questioning, but he's still the Premier League top goal scorer and he was out for 6, 7, 8 weeks. If he carries on the way that he's going, will he ever get into the ranks of Messi, Ronaldo, do you think, given his style of play? If we're saying he's just an out-and-out goal scorer and he's not the kind of winding, running, creative, interesting, will he ever get up there, do you think?
I think he'll be recognised more along the likes of Kane and Lewandowski and these type of players, proven centre forwards. I think Messi and Ronaldo, as Tim said, they're the Hazards, and they've got the skill base and technical base, which is every kid adores. But I think in terms of he scores goals. I saw the comment, Erling Haaland scores goals. There could be tap-ins, there could be scruffy goals, there can be a yard out, or there can be 25-yard screamers. He scores goals, and as a manager, coach, player, goals change games. Yeah. So you want the guy that can do that, and he's not going to link play like Harry Kane. He hasn't got that technical ability. He just scores goals. So you want him in your team.
And Mark, I think he's going to be the difference this year. It's going to be the tightest Premier League we've ever seen. We've got three horse race here. And I think we will right till the end. Arsenal, on their day, have to play very well to share the goals around the likes of Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka. Trossard, when he gets the game time, affects it. Liverpool, pretty similar. Mo Salah is a prolific goal scorer. We know he needs to keep him fit. Núñez is coming on his own. Trossard, they've lost now. And Diaz don't score enough goals. Man City can play brilliantly and open up and share the goals around. When they don't play well, these teams, there's only one team who's got an Erling Haaland, the scruffy finisher. When your team sit in like they did against Brentford. They sit back, put numbers behind the ball, little room to work in. Need that half chance for someone to score. He's the man who does that, and that will be the difference at the end of the season.
Oh, I hope so. I hope it's the difference come the end of the season. Okay, another random football story this week. I'm just going to say allegedly at the start. Allegedly. And then I'm not even going to name a name. Have either of you ever known anyone that set up an undercover social media account to post things about themselves?
I don't really understand social media too well, but maybe it's a great idea, surely.
So if I suddenly see an account that says Tim Sherwood should be our manager, I know who it is.
How many followers did it have?
I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, yes. Have you ever seen any of your players or know anyone that's done anything weird social media-wise?
I've known one or two players get involved in social media and drop things in, and certainly, but never coaches or managers. I mean, that's beyond me. I'd say it's alleged. I don't know. I've no idea if it's true or not. But
no, I don't believe anyone would do. No one would do that. It can't be true. No one would ever do that
because everything is traced back. You can't hide anything, and I think anyone with any sort of grey matter would understand that everything is traceable. So why would you possibly risk it?
Yeah, if an account pops up where it's like Natalie Pike should be presenting Match of the Day, then it's definitely only me or my dad, isn't it? Like, so yeah,
blame your dad.
Yeah, blame me dad. It does seem nuts, doesn't it? But I love it. Bizarre is the word of the day.
It is, but that's another bizarre thing. How do you go on social media? I don't know. As I say, I can't believe that a senior man would do that. But as I say, we'll see what happens.
Alleged. If you don't know what we're talking about, get on to Google. Alleged. Okay, some quick fire questions for you. Oh, I'm gonna ask Tim. Answer if you want. I will not push you. Tim, will David Moyes be the West Ham manager next season?
No, I think it'd be David's choice to leave the football club, and I don't believe he'll be West Ham manager next year. I still see him having a successful end to the season, though. But perhaps the West Ham fans might not see it that way. And like I say, I just think he's a magnificent manager, someone who has managed that amount of games and wants to continue to do the job. As Mark spoke about, got the energy to want to do it. I think you go and try something new, and you cannot continually stand in front of that camera and try and preserve your reputation, which is very, very high. But on the other side, and I'll say it again, I understand where the West Ham fans are coming from.
If he leaves, do it by his own means. I hope very much if David's not there next year, he's decided to walk away and walk into an opportunity that suits his next stage of his career.
Thank you. Bizarre. Again, we are back onto another bizarre question. When you were at Brentford, you had a centre-back, James Tarkowski. Are you aware that he's now about to become a reality TV star? And did you see that side of him?
Absolutely not. Having signed Tarky from Oldham, I can't think of anyone more removed from reality TV than James Tarkowski. So I haven't seen the clip. I had comments before the show, Nat. I don't want to see the clip.
You don't want to see the clip?
I've got zero interest, but that is so far away from James Tarkowski's comfort zone, I can't tell you. So I hope Tarky takes that the right way. I know he will.
Was he going in the jungle?
So there is a new reality TV show coming out on Amazon about footballers' wives, which seems about 1990, early 2000s, doesn't it? But it's a new one, and it's following a group of footballers' wives and their lives, and his wife is in it.
Ooh, no, it won't be James. You've got the wrong person, I think. Honestly. I don't know him, but from when I see that man on the football pitch, what a leader. It won't be him.
It's him.
No,
it's him. It's him.
He is a solid centre-half. I look forward to seeing it at some stage.
I think I am. I think I am actually going to watch it. Like, even though the clip was so cringe, Mark, I feel like I'm going to have to watch it now.
I might have to watch the paint dry first, though.
Paint dry or Footballer Wives TV?
No, Footballer Wives TV.
That's shocking, Tim.
Please excuse me, I just want to stop this episode quickly because Big Sam and I just want to say a huge thank you to you for supporting No Tippy Tappy Football, whether you are listening or watching or doing both. Sam and I absolutely love doing this podcast, and we couldn't do it without you. So take a second, please, and subscribe or follow wherever you are watching or listening to us. We're also on Twitter, No Tippy Tappy Football, and we have our own YouTube channel. I know everybody says it, but it really would mean a lot to us, and it means that we can keep getting bigger and better guests the more followers and the more subscribers we have. And then you can go and tell all your mates that you've done Big Sam a favour. So thank you for listening. We have another listener question. Thank you so much to Jack, who left his comment on YouTube, and he wants to ask, I mean, Jack's just like flat out going for it here. Were you sacked at Rangers, or did you leave to go to Nottingham Forest?
Sacked. We'll be really clear on that. Sacked at Rangers. No one in their right mind would walk away from a club like Rangers. Can't tell you what a club it is. Institution football, superb. So many friends up there. Great time. Couldn't speak high enough of it. Privilege, etc. But you'd never walk away from that club.
What was your best memory of your time at Rangers? Winning the league?
If I'm speaking with a sensible head on, you'd say winning the league and get the club out of the Premier League. But beating Celtic in that semi-final on pens for the fan base, having been relegated down the divisions and back up. So the first time the old firm came together at Hampden, and to have a game that had that nature of it, the extra time, the penalties. I mean, it went to, 10 penalties or something. It had everything. So it was a magnificent game, and the blue side of Glasgow, I knew what it meant to them. So that has to be probably the standout memory.
Wow. How good has he done, Clement?
Done great. Because it's dealing with, there's only two clubs. I'm never being rude to Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen. I'm not. But
yeah, you're first or last.
Yeah. That's it. And we got sacked because Brendan and Celtic had their best ever year in their history.
Yeah.
Our KPI, I'm not digressing here, our KPI the third year was to get into Europe. We were second, and you're sacked. You're second because you're 20 points, 18 points behind Celtic. The only thing that matters to Rangers is Celtic and vice versa. So you live and die by that. So if one team has a stellar season, you've got to make sure you hang on their coattails. So for Clement, he's come in and they were 8 points behind Celtic, and they've closed the gap. And then again, Celtic drew and Rangers win the game, and now they're 2 points clear. And the next Old Firm game will be huge.
How many left, Mark? Old Firm games?
I think, is it one left? I might be wrong, and don't quote me on that. I haven't checked it. But
who wins?
I think Rangers win it. I do. And I'm not, again, Brendan's done a magnificent job. Celtic, a huge club. But I just think momentum now is with Rangers, and the belief is with Rangers, and the fan base believes. And that's when that place gets rocking, nowhere like it in world football.
I saw Tavernier's got some ridiculous goal scoring record there. I know he takes set pieces and penalties and that, but
he's
unbelievable.
He's right up there. I mean, Tav's been there. We signed him. He was our first signing, him and Waghorn. But he's the most attacking fullback, and great set piece delivery. But he scores goals, Tim. He does score goals. Yeah. And I'm thinking of cup finals, he scored a screamer from 30 yards. He just does.
Stands up, big goals.
Yeah, big goals. He's a big player, great athlete, great appearance record. He's always fit. I'm not tempting fate. He's always fit. And I just can't speak high enough of him. But his goal scoring record is quite remarkable, really is.
Last question of the day. What did you find had more pressure, being a football manager or working in the city?
Cool. Not the first time I've been asked that. I've still not answered it properly. I think you've got to say, if I have to give an answer, you've got to say football, because you're dealing with the emotions of the fans.
Yeah.
You're dealing with, as I said earlier, repeating myself a little bit, but when you lose a game or win a game, it's for the fan base, and you've got that responsibility. But when you're in a chair and you've got a big amount of money going the wrong way in a volatile market, I can honestly tell you that's a pressure it's hard to explain. Because what do? You're watching it, you're trading, and it's a different type of pressure. So I understand why people, have tough times and walk away, because they're two very, very distinct pressures. And it's hard to differentiate between the two. But I've got to say, because of the emotions, if I have to give an answer now. But don't underestimate what those boys go through.
But both result-based, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It's all about performance, Tim. It's all about performance. And, you get judged on your performance. And if you have a trader who has to make $10 million a year for his company, and he's sitting there and he's up. I had a trend. I don't know how much time we got. I had a friend who was on the train coming to work with me in the morning, and he had a position in Greek drachma. I'll never forget. And they devalued on the way in, and he lost his entire year. This was like April, May time, and he was already up his year's budget by April, May, and he lost everything and more going into work. And I'm looking at him thinking, is he going to be all right? He's just lost everything on this out of the blue devaluation, right? So he had his currency and he just devalued. And he got to work and I'm thinking, what's he going to do? And he went, I'm right. I know they're wrong. I know they're wrong. And he doubled up and went back in again. And about 4 weeks later, they revalued and everything went back up and he made an absolute fortune. But I'm thinking to have the bravery, I use a different word, but have the bravery to go back in there and believe in your position and do that under that pressure. Yeah. Magnificent. Now he looks like the guy at Bad Manners. He's huge and bald, but you'd never think of him as the same as a footballer. But he's gone in there and dealt with a level of pressure. Yeah. Quite remarkable. I'll use that word again. Quite unbelievable. I was full of admiration for someone who can go in and do that. So it's a different type of job, different type of pressure every day. You know, you can lose your month like that. Yeah. And there's not many jobs where you can deal with that level.
So would you liken it to going down to 10 men and sticking another centre forward on?
It's probably, Tim, it's been 1-1 in a cup final or 1-1 to win the league in the last minute and the opposition got a corner and you're sitting there and
you can't
what I do, you know, and it's one of those type, and or you're 2-1 up and I just want to win this game. I've got to win this game. It's that type of, you know, 1,000 times. Yeah. You know, but it's not many jobs that you can apply that level of pressure to, and it's all performance based. So,
tell everyone. I always say to the managers, what's that feeling like when you're winning the game, and you always believe you're going to get beat, until that referee puts that whistle in his mouth, and you hear that noise. What is that feeling like?
That feeling is it's so hard to explain, isn't it? You can be 4-1 up with like 5 minutes, and there's still something inside. So I can't enjoy this.
It's going wrong.
That's a fan as well.
And it is. Yeah, and you sit there and you think that's just nonsensical. Surely you're better than that. I'm berating myself, going, be better than that, Mark. But inside, you're trying to, you're the swan. You're calm on the surface, and you're no problem with 4-1 up or 2-1 up, whatever it is. Underneath, the legs are done.
How many times you look at that referee?
Yeah, I know. And you're looking at God, and you're going, surely. And then you've got your staff saying, that's it, Gaff, that's it. Well, why are we still playing? Don't tell me that's it. It's obviously not. So it's very much that. But again, it's a level of pressure. When you haven't got it, like I've always worked all my life. I left school at 16, played football, and I've always worked all my life. And now you're not working for a short period. It's bizarre because you miss that. Yeah, the buzz. You miss the buzz. You miss the day-to-day interaction. And as an older person, you miss the young ones keep you alive. I'm saying that in a better word, really. But they keep you fresh, and you get energized by it. So I don't like it. And when people say, "Oh, retire, go play golf," we're talking train Tim. Yeah. I think some people love that and are ready for it. For me, I can't do anything worse. Was that?
That's me.
Thank you. We're so teeing off this afternoon.
Well, Mark, our regular listeners very much know that we have a very, very good record on here. Basically, guests come on here, with the exception of Tim, because he's the presenter, and get jobs. We are on 7 now, I think.
You're on 7. Well, hopefully make it 8 now, fingers crossed.
Very best of luck. We hope it becomes 8.
Thank you very much. Nice to be on the show.
Thank you, mate. So much. Honestly, that was just one of my favourites. Thank you so much. Thank you. Tim, thank you.
Pleasure.
Are you back next week?
Yeah.
Lovely. Is that the end of your winter break then next week? Or your winter section?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. We're going to drag out an old Scottish friend of mine.
Oh, yes, we are. Now that is a tidbit for you. Mark Warburton, thank you so much for being here. Tim, thank you for coming up. Thank you so much for watching another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football, or indeed listening to one. Thank you so much, and a thank you as always to William Hill.